Lagos State is Nigeria's so with the highest voting population, and people will be going into the 2023 election with a mindset that this big metropolitan state will be looking forward to people electing a leader that will reflect their vote and also meet the yearnings and the demands of governance. It means then that the frontline politicians and candidates in the race are, of course, eyeing one thing: to upset the status quo and unseat the incumbent, the candidate of the APC, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. There are a number of them who are on the ballot, about 15 of them. And tonight, one of them will be joining me on the program, and he's the candidate of the ADC, Mr. Funso Doherty, a chartered accountant who wants to become Lagos State Governor. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Doherty, for your time tonight.
It was a pleasure to be here.
I'd like to quote what you said, your reason for wanting to become Lagos State Governor. You said you're stepping forward because all around us we see evidence of this misalignment between the actions of leadership and the interest of the people. What do you mean by that?
Thank you, Seun. Well, you see, if you look at the story of Lagos for the last 23 years, which has been ruled essentially by one ruling party, what we've seen over that period is an increased inequality. And despite the fact that we've had tremendous resources deployed in Lagos over the years, Lagos's 2022 budget, as you probably know, is about 1.7 trillion this year. We have not seen that translate into quality of life for the citizens, and we continue to see tremendous challenges that the citizens face every day, whether it is in the transportation infrastructure, whether it's in education, whether it's in health, which your previous guest spoke about at length. In many of these dimensions of livability of any city, Lagos appears to be at the bottom. And so we believe that the underlying reason why all of this happens has to do with the quality of governance and the quality of leadership. And that is why a central element of our agenda actually is a reform of government, because we believe that a lot of what we see today is because the interests of many of the serving public officers, or the interests of the actions of government, have in many cases been self-serving, have not been considerate of the public interest, and as a result, we see a concentration of the wealth and the resources of the state in a few rather than for the benefits of the many. And we believe that this is something that we need to reverse.
So I will put you up to some tasks tonight, and the reason why that will happen is because Lagos State leads the pack, not only in politics, but in several aspects of life. Perhaps it's not the first time we're seeing an accountant wanting to become, in fact, we've seen an accountant become the governor of Lagos State. But it takes being an accountant to govern a state like Lagos. There are lots to do. First and foremost, let me ask you some political questions. ADC, for those who see that your party has a far cry from a party that has a structure to be able to win Lagos State, how do you respond to such people?
Well, I would say that ADC is not a new party. ADC is not a party without structure. ADC is a party that's been in existence since 2006. We have a structure across Lagos State. We're represented in all the local governments in all the wards. We had a congress and a primaries in Lagos with hundreds of our members from all over the state. So we have a structure in place today, which I interact with on a day-to-day basis. I think also embedded in this question is a question that I often get, which is, how do you intend to tackle the dominance of APC? And my response to that is that in the last election, and you probably know this as someone who has a very keen eye on the political space, in the last election, the current incumbent government was elected with only 700,000 votes. In a Lagos with a population of 25 million odd people. In a state with registered voters probably numbering around 7 million, we had the ruling party coming to power on 700,000 votes. 15% participation rate, the lowest actually nationwide. As you know, the national average is about 30%. So clearly, the majority have not voted in favor of the ruling party. We believe that there's been apathy, which has been driven by two things. One, people have not generally felt that their votes would count. And two, they have not felt that they are presented with alternatives that they feel compelling for them to go out there and exercise that mandate. We believe that both of those things are changing in 2023. We believe we will see a new era.
Sorry to jump in. Yeah, sorry to jump in. You are seeing as an outsider, politically speaking, in Lagos. That means a lot, isn't it? I mean, you need to have a good understanding of how the nitty-gritty of the local politics of Lagos works before you can become a Lagos governor. Do you think so?
You need to have an understanding of politics, certainly. But bear in mind that I am not running on my own. I'm running as part of a party, with part of a structure. I'm also running with a deputy. I'm running with a full slate of legislators. And like I said, we have a structure on the ground. I have been around the local governments, by the way. And in each of these local governments, I have engaged with the people. I have held town halls in the local governments, and I have interacted with the people, and we understand what the concerns of the people are deeply. And by the way, when you go from local government to local government to local government, as I have, and you talk to people, you've talked to men, you've talked to women, you've talked to children, you've talked to the elderly, the concerns of Lagosians are largely common across local governments. The things that they are concerned about, their quality of life, the fact that they spend 4 or 5 hours in traffic going to work and back with the attendant air quality and health issues, the fact that they're not comfortable sending their children to public schools and they have to scrape and scrimp to send their children to private schools even when they can't afford it, the fact that they are not comfortable sending their children to government health centers and they would rather go to traditional medicine practitioners. These are the problems that people face. The problem of touts and agberos. I hear this constantly. And so we have a very good sense going from local government to local government, word to word, talking directly with the people. I don't know how you get more political than that. And what this state needs is not more politicians. What this state needs is leadership.
So, and I'd like to ask you, do you think that the incumbent governor is doing a good job? That you want his job? Or you think that, you can do better? Or, well, you just want to be a governor? Or what lies on the spine of your agenda or your wanting to become Lagos governor? And I'd like to look at what has come out of a popularity survey of the present state of affairs. You have not come in the scheme of things. The last NOI poll released on the governorship election in 5 states shows that Jide Sanwo-Olu of the APC had a 30% margin advantage over the others. He came first in that poll. Do you think you can beat Babajide Sanwo-Olu at the polls?
I absolutely do. And by the way, that is what you would expect of a poll like that at a time in which it was conducted. I don't know the specifics of the poll and what was asked, but if you have an incumbent governor who has been in place for 4 years, that is what you would expect from such a poll. But I would argue that it's very premature to draw any conclusions from that. You'll probably find there's a large proportion of that poll that is undecided, and so the race is wide open. As you know, people have been very focused on the presidential election. I don't need to tell you this. And very few people are focused on the governorship election. That's going to change over the next few months as we get closer to the time. But to answer your question, where you started your question from, Do I think the present administration has done a good job? This is not a personal thing. And by the way, this is not about a fundamental desire to be a governor. As you know, I have been in the private sector. I have a 30-year successful career in the private sector. And so I'm not coming here to find success. But one of the things that I feel, and many Lagosians feel, is that the quality of life, the reason why people's lives are the way they are, is because we have had a failure of leadership. Now, Governor Sanwo-Olu stands on a platform, and that is the platform that has governed Lagos for 23 years. And we're saying, what is the outcome? What is the outcome of 23 years? Almost a generation. Because a generation is generally defined as 30 years. What is the outcome of a generation of leadership by this ruling party? I'll give you one statistic.
So, but you will, Mr. Doherty, you will be telling the voters one thing, that do not vote this and do not vote that. For example, you might be telling them, do not vote Babajide Sanwo-Olu, vote me, I am better than him. And so I've asked you, put the past behind and let's focus on those who are on the table. Do you think you can do better? Do you think Jide Sanwo-Olu, for example, the incumbent, that the rest of the 14 on the ballot will be seeking his job? Do you think he has done a good job in the last 3 or almost 4 years?
I look at the statistics, okay? I look at the outcome, I look at the measures, right? We just got a report released by the Economist magazine, which measures livability of cities across the globe. Out of 172 cities that were ranked, Lagos was ranked 171. One from the bottom. This is objective data. It's not Funso Doherty's data. It is not Seun Okunbaloyo's data. It is the Economist magazine. So I think we don't need to personalize it. This is not a personal contest against anybody. I think it is very clear. And beyond data, Lagosians feel it and experience it daily. This is not an academic exercise. I have sat across from a mother with a baby in her arms. In a town hall, and people tell us the same thing, and you can go across Lagos and get this. So let's leave the propaganda of Lagos is working, and let's look at the data. And the data tells us that for a generation of leadership, we have not covered the ground that we ought to. Lagos is far more endowed than any state in Nigeria. We have more
Mr. Doherty, if you are telling for you now, you probably will have your own strategy. We're very close to your chest. But the question is that out of the different demographies in Lagos and the voting population, who are those that you think that you can go to bed and closing your eyes and they will vote for you?
Well, I don't approach it that way. I don't go to bed thinking that anybody, we need to make our case to everybody. And we need to let everybody know what we bring and why we believe we can take Lagos forward in the next But
which of the demographics does your message resonate with? Which of the demographics does your message resonate with?
Our message.
You're an outsider. You've not been in politics. You're a private sector person. Where do you think is your niche?
We're not approaching a niche. Our message is attractive to anybody who is not part of the core a small group of people who have benefited disproportionately from the past decades. And we think our message is a broad-based message. People want a society that is prosperous. They want a society that is inclusive. They want a society where they can basically fulfill their aspirations. And for that to happen, you need a government that is acting in the interest of the people, that is not acting in a self-serving way, that devolves the resources of the state in a way that is inclusive, and that builds prosperity. We have something we call the Tiger Agenda, which essentially is our agenda for Lagos. T is for tax reform for equity, prosperity, and growth. I is for infrastructure to support a modern mega city. G is for government reform, which I've talked about. E is for education and health systems that people trust. And R is for rule of law and public order. And there are a whole range of measures in each of these areas, which I can go into at length. But we believe that this agenda will deliver a Lagos that is inclusive, that is growing, and that creates jobs, and that creates a quality of life, dignity, and respect for the citizens, and will lay a foundation for a Lagos in the first world.
Let's bring this message home now, and let me ask you, top of your agenda is to reform the public sector. You have welfare as one of your agendas, as you stated. You are also talking about transportation and security infrastructure. You think that this will help fix the problems of Lagosians. But I will ask you, in every city of the world that you find, there are fundamental problems that is almost, at the center of every activity of the lives of the people. For Lagos, what do you think, or what in your mind do you think is the fundamental challenge, and what solution do you have for it?
I think we have multiple issues, but I will name just a few. First of all, infrastructure is a huge problem for us in Lagos, and specifically the transportation infrastructure, given the nature of Lagos. This is an area where a lot needs to be done within a short period of time. We have certain natural advantages which the state has not made the best use of. Lagos is a coastal city. We have the lagoon running across the state. We can do a lot more with our waterways, and we have a plan around that. Rail, this present administration has been working on a rail system for just one line of axis, by the way, not a rail system, I should say, just one axis of travel for well over a decade, almost 15 years. No transparency, no accountability. The project has not been delivered. We will deliver that.
But what will you do differently if you had to tackle that kind of thing? How would you do it? What will you do differently?
So the first thing is transparency and accountability around the project. Let's understand why it has taken 10 to 15 years and it's still not been delivered. Why? Who was awarded the contract? At what price were they awarded it? Why have they not done the work? What actions have been taken by the government? All of this is shrouded in secrecy. This is the issue in Lagos.
All right.
This is the issue in Lagos. Now, if you come
Mr. Doherty, yeah, I know, as a chartered accountant, someone from the private sector, if you're to discuss Lagos problems tonight, we probably need more like 7 hours to discuss this. But I guess your message of Tiger is clear, and perhaps you need to reach out more to people. They're getting a glimpse of what your agenda is. But I must sincerely thank you tonight for coming on. Mr. Funso Doherty is a governorship candidate of the ADC. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure.
Don't forget, everyone, on Sunday, 7 p.m., right here on Channels Television, the presidential candidate of the PDP and his running mate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, will be engaging Nigerians across the different sectors, and they will be talking about the agenda and the people's town hall, a town hall of a different texture and color. Don't miss it, everyone. That's our show for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. God bless Nigeria.